Hello, and welcome to the English Podcast with Zico. I'm your host, Zico, and I'm here with the fantastic Sarah.
Hey everyone, great to be here.
Today, we've got a topic that might sound a little controversial. The title of this episode is Stop Studying English.
Yeah, that's a bold title, Zico. I feel like some teachers might be a little upset with us.
Maybe, but of course we have a little more to say. The full title is Stop Studying English and Do This Instead. We're going to talk about a shift in mindset that can unlock your fluency.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's get into it.
So, Sarah, let me ask you, have you ever studied a language, in a traditional way with textbooks and classes and just felt stuck?
Oh, 100%. In high school, I took French for years, and it was all about memorizing these long lists of vocabulary and, the verb conjugation tables.
The classic verb tables. Yes.
Exactly. And I could do really well on the tests. I could fill in the blanks perfectly. But then if I ever had a chance to speak with a native French speaker, my mind would just go completely blank.
That is the exact feeling we're talking about. It's the problem with the student mindset.
The student mindset.
Yeah, we think that learning a language is like collecting stamps. If I just collect enough vocabulary stamps and enough grammar rule stamps, I'll suddenly be able to speak.
Right, like it's a puzzle you have to solve before you can use it.
Exactly. It's the difference between knowing about a language and actually using a language. Studying often focuses on the knowing about part, but fluency lives in the using part.
That makes total sense. You're not trying to become a linguist. You're trying to communicate with people.
Precisely. So this leads us to the big idea for today. It's this concept of language acquisition versus language learning.
Okay, that sounds a little academic. Break it down for us.
It's simpler than it sounds, I promise. Learning is the conscious process. It's the grammar rules, the flashcards, what we do in a classroom.
Right, studying.
Acquisition, on the other hand, is subconscious. It's how a child learns to speak their first language. They don't study verb tenses, they just hear it and absorb it and start to use it.
Ah, okay. Because they're just surrounded by the language all day, every day. It's just everywhere. So your advice is for us to become babies again.
Haha, not exactly. But we can try to copy that immersive environment. And that is our very first and maybe most important piece of advice in the do this instead category. You need to immerse yourself.
Okay, so how do we do that if we don't live in an English-speaking country?
Well, the easiest place to start is your digital world, your phone. Change the language setting on your phone to English.
Ooh, that's a bold move. I've tried that. The first few days are confusing, but then it becomes normal really fast.
It does, and it forces you to learn words you use every day, like settings or contacts. Then do the same with your social media. Follow accounts, creators, and news pages that post in English.
I love that tip. And make sure it's stuff you're actually interested in. If you love baking, follow English-speaking bakers. If you're into tech, follow tech reviewers.
And don't stop with social media. Think about your entertainment. What music do you listen to? Try finding some English artists in your favorite genre. Your daily commute can become a listening lesson just by changing your playlist. Yes, that is so important. If you're bored, you'll stop. It has to be fun. Which brings us to the next point. Consume lots and lots of comprehensible input.
That's so true. I started listening to English language podcasts about topics I already love, like history and true crime. It doesn't even feel like learning because I'm just so engaged in the story. You absorb vocabulary and sentence structures without even trying. There's another one of those technical terms.
Exactly. It's about creating an English bubble around yourself. Even changing your grocery list into English or the labels on your kitchen jars. Small, consistent touches that make English a normal part of your environment, not a separate, scary subject. I know, but it just means finding things to read and listen to that are at the right level for you. You should be able to understand most of it, maybe like 80 or 90%.
It really sounds like you're tricking your brain into acquiring the language passively just by living your life. You're lowering the barrier to entry. So you're not supposed to jump from beginner to watching a complex political drama on TV.
That's the goal. You remove the friction of, I need to sit down and study now, and replace it with a constant low leveled exposure that feels natural, and most importantly, sustainable. Please don't. You'll just get frustrated. Instead, find things designed for learners, like our podcast, or watch a kids' show. Seriously, shows for children use simpler language and speak more clearly.
That's a great tip. Or even watching a movie you already know really well, but this time with English audio. You already know the story, so you can focus on the language.
Perfect example. The key is volume and consistency, a little bit every day. You're basically creating that immersive environment for your brain to naturally acquire the language instead of trying to force it in with a textbook.
Okay, so we're immersing ourselves, we're listening, we're reading, but Zico, at some point you have to actually speak, right? And that's the scariest part for most people. I think there's a really important point in there about consistency, and that links directly to something that stops so many people: motivation and mindset. We can have all the best immersion techniques, but if we're afraid to try or we give up after a month, it doesn't matter.
It is, and this is the most important part of the do this instead philosophy. You have to turn all that passive input into active output. You have to make some noise. Absolutely. This is perhaps the biggest, most unspoken hurdle. I'm talking about the fear of making mistakes. In a traditional classroom, you get a red mark for a mistake. It's treated as a failure. But in real language acquisition, mistakes are not just okay, they are essential. They are signposts showing you where you need to grow.
So, what's the first step? How do we start making noise without feeling terrified? I always tell my students, you have to give yourself permission to sound silly. You will use the wrong word, you will forget a grammar rule in the middle of a sentence, you will have a strange accent at first. Nobody cares as much as you do. Honestly, most native speakers are just happy and impressed that you're trying to speak their language.
All right, my favorite tip, and it's going to sound a little silly, is talk to yourself. That's such a crucial point. We need to shift our goal. Instead of aiming for a perfect sentence, aim for a successful communication. Did the other person understand your meaning? Great, that's a huge win. You need to celebrate that instead of focusing on the small error you made.
Okay, I was expecting that. So, how do you suggest people stay motivated when they hit the inevitable plateau? You know, that feeling when you've been learning for a while, but feel like you're just not getting any better.
But I'm serious. It is the ultimate low pressure practice. When you're cooking dinner, just narrate what you're doing out loud in English. Okay, now I am chopping the onions. I am going to put them in the pan. Plateaus are a sign of consolidation. Your brain is just organizing all the new information. The key is to change things up. If you've only been watching TV shows, try reading a simple book or a news article. If you've only been doing listening, try a speaking challenge, even just with yourself. Variety is key.
I have to confess, I totally do this already. I just thought it was a weird habit, but it's actually a learning technique. And tracking your progress, right?
It is. You're activating vocabulary, forming sentences, and practicing pronunciation with zero fear of making a mistake. No one is listening. Yes, definitely. Go back and listen to a voice memo you recorded 6 months ago, or reread a short story that you found difficult before. You will be amazed at how far you've come. That feeling is the best motivation there is.
I feel so much better about that now. Okay, so after we've mastered talking to ourselves, what's next? That's fantastic advice. It's about playing the long game and being kind to yourself in the process. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
Use the technology you already have. Take out your phone and open the Voice Memo app. At the end of the day, record a 1-minute summary of what you did in English.
Oh, that's a good one. You don't have to send it to anyone.
Nope, just for you. Listen back to it. You'll start to notice where you hesitate or which words you're missing. It's like a private speaking journal.
And from there, you could maybe find a language exchange partner on an app and start sending voice notes to them. It's still less pressure than a live call.
Exactly. It's about building up in small steps. Okay, and the final technique for active practice, it's called shadowing. And when you do find the partner on an app like HelloTalk or Tandem, it's a good idea to be proactive. Don't just say, hi. Be specific. You can say, hi, I'm Zico. I'm learning English and I can help you with your native language. Could we practice by sending 1-minute voice notes about our day?
Shadowing, like following someone? That's a great way to start. It gives the exchange a clear purpose and manages expectations. What about when you feel ready to move on to live calls? That's another level of scary for a lot of people.
In a way, yes. You're following their voice. You listen to a short audio clip of a native speaker and you try to repeat it at the exact same time as them. You mimic their pronunciation, their intonation, the rhythm of their speech. Everything. So again, add structure to reduce the fear. Don't just have a vague let's talk call. That's too much pressure. Instead, prepare a small topic. You could agree to both watch the same short YouTube video and then discuss it for just 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. That sounds challenging, but amazing for your accent. Or even easier, you could both read the same short news article and share your opinions. Having a plan removes the pressure of having to think of something to say on the spot. You're just focusing on one small, manageable task.
It is. It's like physical exercise for your mouth. You are training the muscles of your tongue and lips to produce English sounds more naturally. It builds fluency from a physical level, not just a mental one. Exactly. And it's okay if the first few calls are a little awkward. It gets easier with practice, just like anything else. The goal isn't a perfect flowing conversation on day one. The goal is to show up, say some things in English, and survive. The flow comes later. So I think that brings us to the end. The main message here isn't that textbooks and grammar are evil.
Right. Sometimes you really do need to look up a rule or check a definition, and that's perfectly fine. They are tools.
Exactly. But they shouldn't be the main event. The focus needs to shift from passive studying to active using and acquiring.
So let's do a super quick recap of the do this instead tips.
Let's do it. Number 1, immerse yourself, starting with your digital world.
Number 2, consume tons of interesting and comprehensible input.
Start making noise. Talk to yourself. It's officially approved by us.
Haha, yes. Number 4, use voice memos and other tech to practice output.
And number 5, try shadowing to improve your pronunciation and flow.
It's all about making English a part of your life, not just a subject you study. The goal is communication, not perfection.
Couldn't have said it better. We're talking about that classic, super frustrating problem. Why can I understand English perfectly, but I can't speak it? You can watch movies, you can listen to podcasts like this one, but when it's your turn to talk, nothing comes out.
Ugh, the silence is deafening, isn't it? Your brain just goes completely blank. It's a huge wall that so many learners hit, and it can be really discouraging. But the good news is, it's a normal part of the process. And today, we're going to break down why it happens and, more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Exactly. This is a solvable problem, so let's get into it. Sarah, where do we start? What's the core issue here?
Well, I think the first thing to really understand is the difference between passive and active language skills. They use different parts of your brain. Listening and reading are passive skills. You're receiving information.
Right, you're decoding. Your brain sees or hears a word and it just has to go, oh yeah, I've seen that one before. It means this. It's like multiple choice. The answer is right there in front of you.
Exactly. But speaking is an active skill. You're not decoding, you're encoding. You have to find the words, put them in the right order with the right grammar, and then physically say them. It's like an essay question, not multiple choice.
That's such a good way to put it. I had a student once who could watch complex medical dramas with no subtitles. He knew all this incredible vocabulary. But when I asked him, so what did you do this weekend? Total freeze.
I've seen that 1,000 times. All that knowledge is in what we call your passive vocabulary. It's a huge library of words you recognize, but your active vocabulary, the words you can actually pull out and use, is a much, much smaller bookshelf.
And the key is that this is totally normal. In any language, even your native one, your passive vocabulary is way bigger. The problem isn't that you're failing, it's that you haven't practiced the skill of moving words from the big library to the small, usable bookshelf.
It's like knowing all the rules of basketball. You can watch games, you can understand the strategy, but that doesn't mean you can go out on the court and sink a three-pointer. To do that, you need to practice the physical act of shooting.
Right, you need the muscle memory. And speaking is a physical skill. It involves your tongue, your lips, your breath, all coordinated by your brain. You can't develop that by just listening.
So that's the first big piece of the puzzle, but there's another piece, isn't there? A big, scary piece.
Oh yeah, the monster in the closet. Let's talk about fear, the psychological barrier.
It's huge. The fear of making mistakes, of sounding unintelligent, of being judged. I think a lot of it comes from how we learned in school, you know? You get a red mark for every error, so we become terrified of errors.
Totally. We develop this perfectionism. We think we have to form the most beautiful, grammatically perfect sentence in our head before we dare to say it out loud.
And of course, by the time you've done that, the conversation has moved on, and you're left feeling like you missed your chance.
It's paralyzing because what happens when you're afraid is your brain goes into survival mode, fight or flight. It's not concerned with creative language use. It's just trying to protect you. And in this case, protection means silence.
Yes, the fear literally blocks your access to the vocabulary you have. You've had that feeling, right? Where after a conversation, you think, oh, I should have said that. The word was in there, it was just locked away by anxiety.
All the time. It's the spotlight effect. We feel like there's a giant spotlight on us and every little mistake we make. But the truth is, people are mostly thinking about themselves. They're not analyzing your grammar. They just want to understand you.
And most native speakers are genuinely impressed that you can speak their language at all. They're not looking to judge you, they're on your side.
Okay, so we've identified the two main culprits, the passive active skill gap and the big monster of fear. Let's get to the good stuff. What can people actually do? How do we fight back?
All right, practical tips. Let's do it. My number one non-negotiable tip is this: speak. From day one, even if you only know 5 words.
Yes, even if it's just to yourself.
Especially to yourself. This is my favorite technique to give students. Narrate your life. When you're making breakfast, say it out loud. I am opening the fridge. I am taking out the milk. Oh, the milk has gone bad. That is disappointing.
Yes, it feels ridiculous at first, but what you're doing is building those neural pathways. You're making the connection between the object, the concept, and the English word a physical spoken thing. You're moving words to the active bookshelf.
Okay. Tip number 2, which is related, is shadowing. We've mentioned this before, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, can you break that down for anyone who hasn't heard of it?
Sure. You take a short audio clip of a native speaker, say 30 seconds of a podcast, and you play it and you speak along with them at the same time. The goal isn't to be perfect, but to copy their rhythm, their melody, the way their words flow together.
It's like lip syncing, but for real. It gets you past that perfectionism because you don't have time to think, you just have to talk. It's pure muscle memory training for your mouth.
Okay, my third tip is to lower the stakes. You have to find a safe space to practice where making mistakes is okay.
Oh, this is a crucial one. Don't make your first speaking practice a high-pressure situation like a job interview. That's like trying to learn to swim during a tsunami.
Exactly. Find a language exchange partner online. Find a patient tutor. Talk to another learner. The goal is connection, not perfection. When the pressure is off, you'll be amazed at how much more you can say.
And the final little tip, try to think in English. It's hard at first, so start small. Instead of thinking, I'm hungry in your native language and then translating, just try to jump straight to the English thought. I'm hungry.
Yeah, cut out the middleman. The translation step is what makes you slow and robotic. Thinking directly in English, even with simple sentences, is a huge step towards fluency.
Wow, okay, that was a lot, but hopefully a lot of helpful stuff. Time flies when you're solving English problems.
It really does. So let's just do a super quick recap. 1, it is normal to understand more than you can speak. Your passive skills develop first. Don't panic.
2, fear is a major blocker. It's a real wall, but you can break it down by realizing that mistakes are part of the process and people are kinder than you think.
And 3, to turn passive into active, you have to, well, be active. Narrate your life, use shadowing, find low-pressure environments to practice, and try to think in English.
That's the roadmap. It's not magic, it's just practice. So our challenge to you, our listeners, is to pick one of those things this week. Just one. Shadow for 5 minutes a day. Narrate your coffee routine. See how it feels.
A perfect challenge. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to English Podcasts with Zico.
As always, you can find transcripts and bonus materials on our website. And please, if you found this helpful, share it with a friend who might need to hear it. We'll be back next week with a new topic. Until then, happy learning.
Bye, everyone.